Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So my name is Katie and today I'm going to be doing the Get to Know the Fantasy Reader tag. So this tag was created by the book pusher, so I'll leave her channel linked down below, and I thought it was a really fun idea because I love fantasy obviously, and it's just a great way to get to know my reading taste a little bit more. So the first question is, what is your fantasy origin story? So that is how you came to read your first fantasy novel. So for me, I think I've always loved fantasy really, but I remember from when I was little, there's the Faraway Tree by Enid Blyton. I absolutely loved. I used to have this like read to me every night by my parents for like every night. So yeah, I kind of want to reread it actually just to see if I'd still like it. But yeah, I just remember loving this so much and I think that just really ignited my love of fantasy. And then obviously when I was a little bit older, the Harry Potter books, so I loved these, and I read them when I was little. I think so they were coming out as I was growing up, and I think I sort of got up to like book 4, but then they got a bit like ahead of me so I just kind of stopped them, and then I read them all when I was in year 12, so that's like 16, 17. So yeah, so I really love these and obviously I grew up with all the Harry Potter hype and like watching the movies and stuff. So yeah, so that is that one. And also, and then I would say the first kind of really adult fantasy book that I first really got into was Mistborn by Sanderson. So yeah, this is the Final Empire. Yeah, so that was my first foray into adult fantasy. So that was kind of my journey from like little baby to big Katie reading these chunky books. So yeah, so the next question is, if you could be a heroine in a fantasy novel or hero, who would you have the author be, and what is one trope you would have to include? So I think for me, I would have fringe, because I feel like she's not too mean to her characters like as some authors I would not trust to keep me alive, but Rinchapeke's worlds are just so good, like, and the characters she writes are all amazing. Heidi in this book, and it's just like she's basically me but yeah, I just love them, and yeah, I would trust her to do me justice and yeah, I just think it would be great. And also she writes really good romances as well, so she could sprinkle some magic into my love life. But yeah, so that would be good. And yeah, so a trope I'd really like to have would either be the like fake dating trope I just need some romance basically, because I just love that trope, and like then the princess and the guard trope as well, I really like. That's another one of my favorites. Or also, I'm not sure if this is really a trope, but if I was like in a book, I would want there to be a scene where it's like, you know, the scenes where it's like a ball and then it all sort of kicks off, so like, but there's just so much like court drama and it's all in this ball setting, and I just love those scenes so much. So I definitely want that to be included in any book I was in. So then the third question is, what is a fantasy you've read this year and you want more people to know about? So that for me is The Sword of Kaigan, so I'll leave a picture there, and I just read this one and it was so good. Like, it's a new instant favourite, like 5 out of 5 stars. Yeah, it was so good. So we're kind of following a mother and a son, so Miskari and Mamoru, and Miskari is the mother and Mamoru is the son, and they kind of live in this village, and this world, it does have modern technology, but they kind of live in this isolated like peninsula where there isn't really much kind of technology or anything. They're kind of quite like rural, and they don't really deal with that stuff much. And the magic system is so cool as well. It's like water bending and like ice bending, and they can like summon these blades made of ice. And also one of the families as well has like blood magic, which is basically like blood bending. So yeah, I just really love that, and just the kind of it's just so good. Like the structure of the story is really interesting as well, because the main action kind of happens like in the middle of the story, which I've only ever seen that in one of the series, which is the Lumatiere Chronicles. But I think it's so good because it gives you, so the main climax is sort of like a big sort of war scenario, and it just gives you time afterwards to kind of see how it's impacting the characters and the kind of emotional growth of those characters after the main event. And yeah, this is just such an emotional book. Like, oh, there's so many moments where I was like crying or holding back tears. But yeah, it's just so good. So I would highly recommend that. The characters are all like A++. But yeah, so it's just a great book. You should read it. And also it's really cheap as well. It's like only £2 on Kindle, and if you have Kindle Unlimited then it's actually free, which is amazing. So yeah, no excuses. So then the fourth question is, what is your favourite subgenre, and what is one subgenre you don't read much of? So for me, my favourite subgenre is probably like big epic fantasy. I just love that so much. And also I'm gonna cheat and say two, because I also really love steampunk fantasy. So I haven't read really very much of it, but I love like The Goblin Emperor and Aeronaut's Windlass. They're just both great books. And yeah, I just kind of really love that sort of like slightly alternate vibe. And also if you watch the what's it called, if you watch Disenchantment on Netflix, which is like an animated series, there's an episode called Steamland, which I just really love that episode. So yeah, I really love like steampunky. And then one subgenre that I don't really read much of is grimdark, because I don't really like grimdark that much. Yeah, there's one or two that I like I really like The Poppy War, and Jade City could be grimdark, but I would consider that more like urban gangster fantasy. But yeah, anyway, that's irrelevant. But I do read it, but yeah, it's just not something that I really gravitate towards. So the next question is auto by fantasy authors. So the obvious answer to this question is Sanderson, of course. And also Leigh Bardugo. So she only has one adult release at the moment, which is Ninth House, which I really loved. And also Six of Crows is obviously one of my favourite series. But yeah, so I'm excited to see anything she like brings out. And also R.F. Kuang, so she wrote The Poppy War. I mean, that's the only like trilogy she has out. But anything she does in the future, I'm definitely going to keep up with, because I just really love her books. And she's so fun to follow on Twitter as well. She's always like talking shit about her characters, which is so funny, going on about how stupid they all are, which is quite funny. But yeah, so the next question is, how do you typically find fantasy recommendations? So I would say for me it's mainly like booktube, watching other fantasy booktubers, and also Twitter. So if someone's like, yeah, like Twitter, Goodreads kind of, if I see a book that looks really interesting. But yeah, I would say mainly YouTube is where I get most of my recommendations. So the next one is an upcoming fantasy release you're excited for. So for me it will be Age of Empire, which I'll put a picture in here, by Michael J. Sullivan. So that is coming out in May, and that is the final book in the Legends of the First Empire series. So I'm super excited for this one, obviously, because it's the final book, and the final book in the Theft of Swords, the Heir of Nobron, was really good. He like wrapped it up really well, and I think he says like in his prologues that the way he writes the whole thing before any of it gets published. So that allows him to like make a really satisfying conclusion, which I think is really good. And yeah, I just love all the characters, like Bryn and Tesh, and they're also good. So yeah, I'm excited. And the last book kind of ended on quite a large cliffhanger. Like all the characters are basically in oblivion now, so I'm not sure how that's going to get resolved, but yeah, we'll see. So I'm super excited for that one. And also the audiobooks are amazing. So yeah, I'll be listening to that one as soon as it comes out. So the next question is, what is one misconception about fantasy you would like to lay to rest? So I think for me is that there's like, all the fantasy is like white male dude bros. I think there's so much like diversity in fantasy, and nowadays it's like so easy to find because there's so many like booktubers pushing amazing diverse books. And yeah, there's just so much good stuff. Like there's so many amazing female characters and so many like diverse cultures, and there's just so many worlds to explore. So yeah, you don't need to be limited to like anything, and yeah, it's just great. And also yeah, like loads of fantasy fans that I know are like women, and that's great. So yeah. Then the next question is, if someone's never read a fantasy before, what would like be 3 recommendations that just spring to mind? So for me, number 1 would be Mistborn, obviously. I think this is just like a universal kind of fantasy that most people, yeah, I think most people would like. There's just like so much to love in this book. And yeah, it's just a really great introduction, and it's really easy, like the writing is really easy to digest. So I'd say that one. And also along those similar lines is The Poppy War. So this one is a bit darker, but the writing is really easy to like digest. And also I think the kind of the beginning of the book is a really familiar setting. It's like a magic school almost, so I think that's kind of really easy to like get into. And yeah, and it kind of builds into like this big war, and it all gets a bit heart-wrenching in the second half, but we'll leave it there. And I think, yeah, that's just a really good introduction. And also the third book would be Vicious by the Schwab. So this one maybe a sci-fi, maybe fantasy, I'm not really sure, but yeah, I think this one just has so many kind of like, if you've not read much fantasy but you do kind of like keep up with like pop culture and stuff, I think this one would be really good, because kind of following like superheroes, like extraordinaries, and I think that's just kind of something familiar, and the characters kind of really easy to root for. They're kind of all a bit evil, but you kind of like them anyway. But yeah, and also it's quite short, so it's really easy to get through. But yeah, I love this one, and V. Schwab's writing as well is just so beautiful. I'm so excited for her book coming out later this year. But yeah, so that's that one. And then finally is any recent fantasy content creators that you've just come across and you would like to shout out. So for this I have two. So Taylor from Made Between the Pages, so she started her channel at like basically the same time as me, and we're like booktube twins. So yeah, her content is so great, and she's like so sweet and kind and supportive. And yeah, I'm so amazed by her content. Like, it's like top quality. Like, I don't know how she does it, but yeah, that's amazing. And also a new discovery is Sufficiently Advanced Lena. So Lena, I started following on Twitter because I saw that her handle was like Lena needs more Sword of Kagen, and I was like instant follow because I just need someone to gush about Sword of Kagen with. But yeah, her channel is amazing, and she reads so much fantasy, and she has so much sass, and she's great. So yeah, you should all go and subscribe to both of them. And yeah, so that is everything. So thank you so much for watching. I'm tagging anyone who wants to do this tag, so feel free, and if you do, definitely let me know. And if you don't have a channel or you don't want to do it, then leave a comment with any of the answers to these questions. I would love to chat about it there. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.